In this video, we are going to explore digital color and how to work with color and color schemes in Adobe Illustrator. Now for this exercise, I want you to imagine for a second that you are a graphic designer who's been hired to create a poster for a local university, the Spring Fling poster, as you can see here. Now I already have a Spring Fling poster up here, but I want you to imagine for a second this is not a finished poster, that you are starting from scratch. What I'd like you to do is come to the File drop-down menu and select New. From the new document setup window, I want you to again work with an 8.5 by 11 document. Again, I've got mine oriented to horizontal. But before we say OK, this time I want you to come to the advanced options and twirl that down. The very first option that we see here is something called color mode. Right now, this document wants to work in RGB color mode. RGB stands for red, green, and blue. These are the process colors that your screen uses to make up the color spectrum that you see. Amazingly, only those three colors are necessary to see a vast spectrum of color. Let's click on this disclosure triangle though to see that there is in fact another color mode that we can work with. If I choose that, the CMYK color mode, here I'm working with what's called the cyan, magenta, yellow, and K is our key color, black. CMYK is the process color that printing presses use to create images on paper. Depending on what medium you're designing for, digital or print, you're going to want to make sure that you choose the right color mode. But sometimes, as art and image creators, we don't know where our imagery could go. I always recommend that you stay with CMYK color rather than RGB color. While RGB does provide a wider color gamut, if you were to create something in RGB mode that would later be printed using CMYK color, you will see a degradation of color. That's why I always suggest that you stay within the CMYK color mode. And that's what we're going to do here with this exercise. I'm going to click the Create button. Let's begin the process of designing this poster by coming up with a color scheme. As spring is the major theme of this poster, let's start with a spring-themed color scheme. I'm going to start by creating a color swatch. I'm going to come over to my toolbox and choose my rectangle tool. I'm going to click and drag out a square by holding down the Shift button in the center of my artboard. And I'm also going to zoom in to that square by pressing Command + a couple times. This square currently has the default white fill and black stroke of default objects created in Illustrator. Let's come over to our color panel. And because we are in CMYK color mode, you can see there are our CMYK color sliders. Let's bring our fill indicator forward and choose a nice spring color. For me, a spring color is a light green color. I'm going to choose that color from my CMYK color spectrum. If you want to see this a little bit larger though, you can take your cursor, hover over the bottom end of your color panel and drag down, drag to the left like that so you can see this a little bit more easily. I'm going to choose a nice light green fill from my color spectrum right down here. I'm going to take away the stroke color by bringing the stroke indicator forward and setting that to none. I'm going to close my color panel, and I have the first color that is going to go into my color scheme for my poster. But now what? What colors go well with a yellow-green? Let's drag out another instance of this color swatch by clicking and dragging another rectangle out like that. I'm going to come over to the color panel, and let me start trying out some other options. Nice pink with that light green would be really quite nice. In fact, the red and green make up a very nice complementary color scheme. I kind of like that. I'm going to close my color panel. I now have two colors that are the basis of my color scheme. This would be a good time to save these colors so that I can come back and work with them later or send them to other people that I'm collaborating with on this poster project. So let's save these. I'm going to press V on my keyboard to bring up my black arrow, and I'm going to drag around my two color swatches. And to save them, I'm going to come over to my panel stack on the right-hand side and click once on my Swatches panel. In the Swatches panel right now, I see some color swatches. These are just default colors that every Illustrator document has pre-installed. These colors across the top here are just individual colors. But down below, we see something that looks like a folder. These are color groups. We have two default color groups in here right now, but I want to create a new color group using these two colors I have selected. I'm going to come over to the Swatches Options button in the top right and click on that once. And from this menu, I'm going to select New Color Group. From here, it's asking me, do I want to make a color group from the artwork that I have selected? That's exactly what I want to do. I'm going to say OK. And you can see now I have a new color group with these two colors selected. I can now use this color group in this document, or I can import it into other documents. But what I want to show you is that Adobe Illustrator has a number of color group libraries pre-installed, and we can access them right here through the Swatches panel. See here in the bottom left corner of the Swatches panel, you'll see what looks like books on a shelf. That is our library button. If I click on that, from this menu we see a lot of pre-installed color swatches. For example, this first one here, Art History, with its flyout menu, allows us to choose color groupings based upon eras in art history. For example, if I open up Impressionism, that opens up a new panel that has some color groups based on Impressionistic paintings. I kind of like this one here, the third from the top, Impressionism 3. If I want to add that or any of these other color groups into my swatches panel, I just need to click it once. And you can see that now that color group has been added to my swatches panel. Let's add some other pre-installed Illustrator color groups. I'm going to come over here to this panel again and click on that Swatch Libraries menu. This time, I'm going to come down here to where it says Nature. And you'll see from that flyout menu, one of the options is called Seasons. In this panel, you can see the different seasons separated into color groups. These first four represent spring. I'm going to add a couple of these. This one and this one. I'm going to expand my swatches panel so I can add those here like that. I'm going to let you explore more in the Swatches Library panel. Some of these are really interesting. For example, Color Books allows us to access Pantone colors, which are used for offset printing. I'm going to close this for now. Well, I've added a few more color groups here, but I'm still not sure if I have the color grouping that I really want. I'm going to explore some other ways of adding color to my document. I want you to come to the Window drop-down menu. From this menu, I want you to choose Color Themes. Color Themes is directly connected to a website called color.adobe.com. Now that website is a resource for graphic designers and artists. You can upload and download color schemes created by other graphic designers. Let me show you what I mean. Across the top here, we have a couple of options. I want you to click where it says Explore. This connects me directly to color.adobe.com. Currently, I'm seeing color groupings based upon popularity, but I'm going to click inside of this search window here and type in the word spring and then return on my keyboard. What I see here are all the color schemes that have been uploaded that have spring as one of their tags. There's a number of different interesting options here. I like this second one from the top. If I want to add that into my swatches panel, I just need to click on these three buttons here and choose Add to Swatches. And I've added yet another color grouping here. I'm going to close this because I want to talk about one more way of adding color groups to my swatches panel. In order to do this though, I'm going to click off of my currently selected color swatches so that nothing is selected. Now I'm going to come back to my original color and select that. With that yellow-green selected, I'm going to come back over to my panel stack, and this time I'm going to open up my color guide. Currently you can see the light yellow-green color that I have selected right here, but this set of colors here is a color grouping based upon a certain color harmony rule. Which one? Well, let's come over to this disclosure triangle and click on that once. And what I'm seeing here are all the different color groupings based upon that light yellow-green as they pertain to these different color harmony rules. Let's choose this first one here, complementary. What I see now is that green and its complement. Well, as you can see, we were fairly close with this pink color that we chose earlier. But I see something else here in this color guide. This section down at the bottom here shows these two complementary colors in this row right here underneath the white triangle. To the right of these colors, we see tints, basically adding a little bit of white or lightening those colors. To the left of those colors, we see the shades or the tones, basically adding a little bit of black. On either ends, these colors are indistinguishable from white or black. But the colors in between are quite interesting. In fact, I would like to add a number of these colors to my swatches panel. First of all, I'm going to click on one of these colors here that doesn't look quite so gray. While holding down the Shift button, I'm going to click on this light pink color down here. By holding down the Shift button, Illustrator has selected all the intermediate colors between those two. Once I have those selected, I'm going to come to the bottom of my color guide panel and click on this button here, Save Color Group to Swatch Panel. By clicking on that once, when I open up my swatches panel, you can see that I've added that complementary color scheme to my swatches panel. I want to finish this video with one last topic. One thing we'll discover is that in Illustrator, these color groups that we've just installed in our swatches panel are only associated with this particular document. If I was to come to the File drop-down menu, create a new document, you'll notice that this document swatches panel has none of the color groups that we've just created. But Illustrator allows me to export and import swatch panels from one document to another. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to come back to this document here. In the Swatches panel, with all these color groups, I'm going to come to the Option button, and at the bottom of this menu, I'm going to select Save Swatch Library as AI. There's another option here that says Save Swatch Library as ASE, an Adobe Swatch Exchange file, which allows it to be opened up by any Adobe program. The Save Swatch as AI option allows you to open up these color groups only in Adobe Illustrator. But since that's what I'm doing, I'm going to save it as Save Swatch Library as AI. Here, Illustrator is going to save it in the appropriate swatches panel. It's up to you to give it an appropriate name. I'm going to call mine Spring Fling. I'm going to click Save. Now, if I come to my new document, I can open up the Swatches panel, click on the Option button. This time I'm going to open Swatch Library. From this flyout menu, I'm going to come down here to the bottom where it says User Defined. I have my Spring Fling Swatch Library right here. I can add any one of these color groups to my Swatches library by just clicking on it. If I want to add all of them, I can click on all of them, but I don't have to. I only need to include the ones that I really want to use. In our next video, we are going to apply some of these color groups that we've just created to an actual composition.